Single dad CEO discovers an incredible connection. Daughter's heartwarming wish will transform their lives forever. On a breezy afternoon in early spring, Mark sat hunched over his laptop, the glow of the screen illuminating the worry lines on his forehead. Outside, cherry blossoms danced in the wind, filling the air with their soft pink hues. Children laughed and played in the streets of their vibrant urban suburb, but all Mark could hear were the notifications pinging endlessly on his phone. As the CEO of a tech startup struggling to stay afloat, he was tethered to his work, chasing shadows of success while his heart yearned for his 10-year-old daughter, Emma. Emma, with her bright eyes and wild dreams, sat nearby, crafting a colorful poster for her school play. She glanced up, watching her dad's fingers fly across the keyboard, as familiar disappointment washed over her. That evening, she gathered courage and softly made a wish. "Dad, can we have a normal life? I really want you to come to my play and maybe tuck me in without your work." Calling those words sliced through the air, leaving an echo in Mark's chest. His chest tightened at the realization of Emma's longing. Was success truly worth the smiles he sacrificed? Guilt and pride twisted within him, and the weight of his life choices shone brighter than the spring sun. The night of Emma's performance arrived, a night that held the potential to mend their fractured bond. The joyous laughter was replaced with uncertainty as Mark paced in the office, one eye on the clock and the other on the deal that could finally breathe life into his mortally wounded company. Distant cheers echoed through the walls as Emma dazzled on stage, a young star capturing the hearts of every parent in the audience. But Mark's attention remained locked on his phone, consumed by numbers, projections, and emails, his ambitions eclipsing his family. And then it hit him. Just as he rushed home, the excitement faded into silence. Emma stood in the doorway, her smile wilted. The show had ended, and he missed it. The laughter he loved to hear so much had been replaced with a heavy heart, words unspoken. He had sacrificed a moment that would never return, but for what? In the days that followed, their once vibrant connection dulled. Conversations became short and tentative, words heavy with unsaid apologies. As Mark delved deeper into work, he questioned everything he thought he knew about success. Was it really worth this emptiness? Tension mounted in their neighborhood as an eviction notice threatened many families facing the gentrification of their beloved homes. At first, Mark hesitated, consumed by his own issues. But Emma, passionate and full of life, rallied their neighbors. Together, they dove into action, gathering resources and advocacy out of sheer determination. The heartwarming bond with the community ignited something within Mark, an awakening to the real fabric of life around them. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Mark listened to the raw stories around him, he was jolted into clarity. The veil of ambition began to lift, revealing a larger purpose: family, community, love, and connection. Would he fight for those around him and reconnect with Emma? As he approached the crossroads of ambition and family, the stakes grew higher. His future and Emma's happiness hung in the balance. Could he repair what had been broken and transform their lives together? The horizon loomed, ready to redefine his understanding of true success. Mark stood at the edge of his driveway, where the vibrant colors of spring surrounded him. The cherry blossoms fluttered softly in the breeze, a stark contrast to the turmoil in his heart. He watched Emma lead a group of children, their laughter piercing through the tension that had hung over their home. They were prepping for their first neighborhood meeting about the impending evictions. Emma's determination shone, and it inspired Mark. "Dad, come on," Emma called, her voice bright, urging him to join the gathering. The sight of his daughter rallying the neighborhood stirred something deep within him. It was a realization, a call to arms not just for the families at risk, but for their own fractured relationship. That he joined the group, feeling the warmth of their unity envelop him. The residents spoke passionately about their homes, sharing stories of the memories woven into the walls, of children growing up under the same roof. As Mark listened, he felt a blend of guilt and resolve. These were the moments he missed with Emma, and now, standing beside her, he felt the weight of hope blooming within him. Soon, he found himself speaking to the group, words spilling out with newfound urgency. "We can't let this happen. We need to stand together and fight for our homes, for our community." The crowd erupted in cheers, and he saw Emma's face light up with pride. It was the first spark of connection in weeks, and it filled him with a warmth he hadn't felt in ages. As they strategized, Mark and Emma locked eyes, a silent promise passing between them. They were in this together. For the first time in a long while, Mark felt like a father, not just a CEO. They walked home that evening, side by side, and the silence was no longer awkward. It was comforting. Emma grinned up at him. "I knew you'd come. We make a good team, don't we?" "Yeah, we really do," he replied, his heart swelling with affection. Over the next few days, they worked together to create flyers, organize town meetings, and connect with local advocates. Mark transitioned seamlessly from boardrooms to community halls, and he was grateful for every moment spent hustling alongside Emma. The way she put her heart into everything reminded him of just how much he had started to neglect her dreams. But deeper worries lingered in the background. Mark's company was still on shaky ground. A big investor had promised him a lifeline, but every passing day, without a solid deal, felt like a ticking clock. He wasn't just fighting for the neighborhood anymore. He was fighting for his daughter's future too. One evening, as they finished a long day of activism and community work, Emma tugged at his sleeve. "Dad, what happens if you can't fix your job? Will we lose our home too?" The question struck him hard. The future felt like a giant question mark, and he hadn't prepared for this conversation. Swallowing hard, he knelt down to her level. "I won't let anything happen to us, Emma. You have my word." But deep down, uncertainty gnawed at him. Would these efforts be enough to save their home? And if he succeeded in the community struggle but failed in his personal battle, what would he have truly gained? As night fell, Mark lay awake, weighing his future against his daughter's wishes. Could he hold on to both? The weight of modern life pressed heavily on him as he realized the depth of the challenge ahead. With a sigh, he closed his eyes, knowing that the stakes were higher than ever. Tomorrow promised new battles, not just for their community, but within himself. Would he be able to find the balance again? As he drifted off, he felt that uncomfortable knot form again. In his heart, he knew their journey was just beginning. What awaited them at dawn could change everything. The next morning brought a crispness to the air, and the sunlight filtered through the blinds, casting soft stripes across Mark's bedroom. He opened his eyes, a sense of unease still clinging to him. With a deep breath, he pushed himself out of bed and climbed into the shower, the water washing over him, mingling with the worries swirling in his mind. Today was important. Today, they would march to City Hall with their neighbors, their voices joined in a symphony of hope and resistance against the evictions. Emma's passion fueled his determination. The thought of her smiling face propelled him forward. That he found her in the kitchen, bouncing with energy. "Are you ready, Dad?" she asked, her excitement infectious. The way she sparkled filled him with a mixture of pride and urgency. Mark poured coffee into his mug, letting the warm steam envelop him for a moment. "Yeah, but remember, it's not just about us. We're fighting for everyone." "Right." Emma's eyes widened, echoing the shared sentiment. "And if we win, we can help everyone keep their homes." They finished breakfast in a flurry, laughter spilling over as they recounted silly moments from the past few days. It felt good to laugh together, easing the weight of unspoken worries that hung like a cloud. As they left the house, the neighborhood hummed with a nervous energy. Residents began to gather, signs in hand, ready to make their voices heard. Mark felt a sense of belonging as he stood among the familiar faces. Voices rose sharply against the backdrop of the city's hustle. Fear and resolve blended in the air, each heart aching for something greater. Emma held his hand tightly as the group started to march down the street. Each step felt like a beat of their collective heartbeat. Mark's heart raced, not only from the energy of the moment, but because he realized he wasn't just leading this fight. He was also leading his own path back to Emma. But as they approached City Hall, doubt crept in. A knot twisted in his stomach. He spotted reporters setting up cameras, officials gathering on the steps, all watching. Would they take their plea seriously? Could they really make a difference? As they assembled in front of City Hall, Emma stood beside him, her little frame steadying his nerves. "We can do this, Dad. Just like what we practiced," she whispered, her voice quiet yet unwavering. Her pure belief pooled in his heart, renewing his resolve. Mark took a deep breath, straightening his posture. It was time to speak again, to rally the troops. He could feel the anticipation thrumming through the crowd. This was bigger than evictions. It was about community, family, connection. They all shared the same dreams. "Everyone, listen up," Mark shouted, his voice cutting through the chatter. The crowd quieted, and his gaze found Emma's. She nodded, urging him on. "We're here to fight for our homes, not just for bricks and mortar, but for our lives, our stories, and our futures. We need to show them what we stand for." Cheers erupted, filling the space with hope. People raised their signs, voices intertwining in a chorus of determination. But amid the raucous energy, a police officer stepped forward. "You need to disperse. We can't allow this gathering without proper permits," he warned, his expression serious. An icy grip of fear clamped down on Mark's chest. As the crowd murmured, uncertainty surged. What if they were turned away? What if this was all for nothing? Moments passed like hours as he searched for the right words to say. And then, unexpectedly, he turned to Emma. "What do we do?" he whispered, seeking her guidance. Her eyes were sharp with defiance. "We stay. We fight. Together." Mark's heart swelled with pride as he looked around. This was all for them. Yet, another voice cut through the tension. "We won't back down," a neighbor shouted from the crowd, echoing Emma's sentiment. The energy shifted, momentum building. Mark felt the fire rising within him. They were ready for what lay ahead, but he still struggled with the uncertainty of the future. Would their brave stand be enough? The crowd surged forward, demanding attention, and Mark realized they had reached a pivotal moment, one that could alter everything. With one final glance at Emma, he knew they were on the precipice of something monumental. And then, as if electrified, he shouted, "Let us show them the strength of our community." But even as he proclaimed it, doubt whispered at the edges of his mind. Would they truly be heard? Little did he know, the answer to that question was right around the corner, ready to test everything he believed in. The crowd responded to Mark's words with renewed energy, each individual drawing strength from one another, united by a shared purpose. Emma squeezed his hand, her small fingers gripping tightly, and Mark felt a surge of determination. They weren't just standing against an unjust eviction, they were fighting for the essence of their community. "Let us make our voices heard," he called again, and people started to chant, echoing the rhythm of their hopes. "Our homes matter. Our homes matter." He watched faces, neighbors, friends, strangers, all filled with raw emotion, anger, hope, desperation. It stirred something deep within him, pushing away the doubt that had anchored itself in his chest. This wasn't just about real estate. It was about the lives woven into the fabric of their street, their community, their lives. But as the chants grew louder, the officer stepped forward again, his stance firm and unyielding. "You need to disperse immediately. If you don't, we'll have to make arrests." Mark froze, the words crashing over him like a cold wave. He glanced at Emma, whose eyes glimmered with defiance. This was her moment too. The weight of responsibility settled heavily on his shoulders, and he realized he needed to protect her both physically and emotionally. "Stay right here," he told her, confidence in his voice as he moved closer to the officer. "We're not causing any trouble, just standing up for our rights. We will leave, but we won't stop fighting. Do you think the city will listen to your pleas?" The officer questioned, a hint of skepticism lining his words. Mark took a breath, grounding himself in the noise around him. "I think the city can ignore us for today, but will return. We will not be silenced or ignored. What we're standing for today will not disappear because of a permit." Emma's gaze stayed locked on Mark, her admiration shining amidst the chaos. It was a mixture of pride and worry, and it propelled him further. He faced the crowd again, this time his voice steady and unwavering. "This isn't the end. This is only the beginning. We will continue to stand together." The chants swelled, filling the air with the spirit of resistance. Mark felt the presence of those behind him, their energy wrapping around him like a protective shield. But then, unexpectedly, a voice from the back called out, drawing attention away from the current standoff. "Look!" someone shouted, pointing toward the steps of City Hall. Mark turned to see a figure emerging from the building. A woman dressed in a sharp suit, her expression unreadable, approached the mass of people. Murmurs ran through the crowd as she descended, eyes scanning the signs, evaluating the level of conviction surrounding her. "Who is that?" Emma asked, tightening her grip once more. "I don't know, but she looks important," Mark said, tension rising in his throat. Would she listen? Would she even care? As the woman reached the base of the steps, she stopped, and silence fell over the crowd. They held their breath, waiting, hoping. "I'm here to hear your concerns," she stated, her voice cool yet inviting. "But I need you to be willing to have a real conversation." Mark's heart raced. Was this their chance? "We're ready," he shouted, stepping forward, feeling Emma's eyes on him, urging him. Here was the opportunity they fought for. But as the crowd surged again, filled with emotions and a mixture of hope and fear, Mark couldn't help but wonder, could this moment change everything? In the fragile balance between hope and doubt, he realized that in the face of this unexpected opportunity, there were still numerous hurdles to clear. Would their voices truly echo in the halls of power? And would he be able to protect Emma's heart from disappointment if it didn't? As those questions swirled in his mind, Mark knew they were on the brink of something significant, perhaps transformative, if only they could navigate the storm ahead. And just then, a loud crash echoed in the distance, breaking the fragile moment of peace. What had happened now? Mark's instincts kicked in as he turned, anxiously scanning for the source of the commotion, knowing that whatever it was, it had the power to shift everything in an instant. The crowd shifted uneasily, eyes darting toward the source of the noise. An unmistakable tension filled the air. Mark's heart raced, a relentless beat that echoed the anxiety of those around him. He could see a cluster of workers hurriedly gathering equipment, and in that moment, his mind raced with possibilities. Had they brought in reinforcements? Were they going to escalate this? "Everyone stay calm," he called out, raising his voice above the mounting chaos, but uncertainty rippled through the people. Emma's grip tightened on his hand, seeking comfort amid the looming threat. As the commotion grew louder, a few brave souls ventured towards the sound. Mark felt a pull. He needed to know what was happening. He squeezed Emma's hand gently but firmly, a signal of reassurance. "Stay close to me, all right?" he urged. With the crowd behind him, he moved cautiously towards the noise, and as they rounded the corner, what they saw was shocking. A group of construction workers, dressed in hard hats and fluorescent vests, were trying to set up barriers around the site of the proposed development. Mark's gut tightened. They were moving fast, no doubt under orders to push forward. "What are they doing?" someone whispered. Mark's eyes narrowed. "They can't do this," he murmured as dread washed over him. "Not while we're here." Emma's voice pierced through his thoughts. "Mark, we can't just let them." Her determination ignited something in him. "Right," he agreed. "Let us show them we won." Back down. Gathering his breath, he stood tall, ready to confront the encroaching force. "Hey!" he shouted, the words slicing through the noise. The workers paused, surprise etched on their faces. "You can't build those barriers. We're standing against this eviction." The foreman, a burly man with a weathered face, stepped forward. "Look, I'm just doing my job. You all need to move along." His voice was gruff, but Mark saw something softer simmering beneath the surface. Perhaps he understood. Perhaps he could empathize. Mark stepped forward, beckoning Emma and the rest of the group closer behind him. "We're all just trying to do our jobs too. We're fighting for our homes. Our lives, this community, means something to us. It's more than just a project for you." The foreman hesitated, his brow furrowing as if weighing Mark's words. A scattered chorus of supportive shouts erupted from the crowd behind Mark, urging the workers to reconsider. He felt the energy shift again, this time with a fervor that made his pulse race even faster. And then, without warning, another crash came from beyond the construction site, a sound that made every head turn. It was followed by a yell, panic erupting among those gathered. Mark's stomach twisted. What now? Suddenly, Emma tugged at his arm, her eyes wide with alarm. "Mark, look." She pointed to the edge of the construction area where something had toppled over. A fence post laid askew, and it seemed like a piece of machinery had started to roll dangerously close to the crowd. "Everyone back up," Mark shouted, instinct taking over. He moved quickly to shield Emma with his body, adrenaline propelling him. His heart raced for more than just the situation. It was for her. He couldn't let anything happen to her as chaos unfurled. The foreman called to his crew, urgency breaking through his rigid exterior. Secure that equipment. We don't want anyone getting hurt. For a moment, the workers paused, looking between fear and duty. Mark felt the balance shifting in his favor, but it was fragile and fraught. What if he couldn't keep Emma and the others safe? In the tumult, the woman from City Hall stepped forward again, her poise unruffled. Everyone, please. Let us remain calm and work together. But Mark's focus was on the foreman, urgency and hope mingling in his heart. This was their moment. If he could appeal to him, maybe there was a way forward. Listen, he called, his voice cutting through the rising tension. Help us instead of doing this. We want to talk. We can work together to find a solution. Just as he spoke, another loud crash pierced the air, and Mark braced himself again, knowing they were hanging on a precipice, desperate for a way to bridge the divide. What if the foreman replied? What if they all listened? Or had they just taken a step too far into chaos? The stakes had never felt higher, and as emotions surged, it became undeniably clear they were at a crossroads that could change everything if only someone would take a leap of faith. Get back, shouted the foreman, but Mark felt adrenaline pulsing through him, igniting a ferocity he didn't know he possessed. He tried to lock eyes with the foreman, a silent plea for understanding. The roller of machinery grazed the pile of equipment, screeching metal sending sharp echoes through the air. Dust rose in a haze, swirling like a bad omen. Panic buzzed at the edges of the crowd, the electricity of fear weaving through their skin. Emma pulled at Mark, her face pale, eyes wide with worry. Mark, please, she urged, her voice trembling as she tried to pull him away. But he couldn't move. He wouldn't run from this. The foreman stepped closer, anxiety etched across his rough features. I didn't sign up for this, you know. We're just following orders, he admitted, his facade cracking slightly. Orders? Mark echoed, his voice sharper than he intended. How can you just ignore the human cost? You live here, don't you? You know how this will affect us. In that moment, the foreman faltered. His crew, too, was hesitating, caught between obligations and morality. Mark seized the chance, pushing through his fear. Look at these faces, he cried, gesturing to the crowd behind him. Expressions filled with hope, fear, and determination. These are your neighbors, your community. We're not just numbers on a balance sheet. He felt Emma grip his arm tighter, her presence grounding him even as the weight of the moment pressed insuffocatingly. The murmur of the crowd began to swell, voices lifting as people chimed in, their words blending into a powerful current of support. We can find a way for all of us. Someone shouted. We just want to be heard. The foreman's gaze straight. Somewhere in the chaos, Mark thought he caught a glimpse of understanding flickering in the man's eyes. He took a small step forward. You want to work? Then let us sit down and figure this out together. A pregnant pause hung in the air, thick with anticipation. The construction crew looked unsure, as if they too were yearning for a solution that didn't put them against the people they lived among. But then, another crashing sound erupted, louder this time, ripping through the fragile moment of connection. It reverberated through the crowd, and gasps replaced shouts. Mark turned, instinctively shielding Emma again. The machinery was buckling, a large, heavy piece swaying dangerously. Time froze, his eyes widened, and then it fell. Run! Someone screamed. Chaos erupted. People surged in every direction, desperate to flee from the crashing metal. Mark felt a surge of fear, but also a fierce protectiveness. He pulled Emma close, and they rushed toward the direction of safety, navigating through the waves of panic. Stay with me, Mark shouted against the din, his voice barely rising above the frenzy. They bolted toward the side of the street, away from the sight, his heart pounding louder than the chaos behind them. Emma clung to him, her trust in him unwavering even as her own fear flared. Once they reached the cover of an old oak tree, Mark pulled Emma close. The sounds of chaos faded slightly, the crowd's panic echoing just beyond their refuge. He looked at her, concern knitting his brow. Are you hurt? Are you okay? I'm fine, she whispered, voice quivering. But what just happened? Why are they doing this? Don't they see what they're putting us through? The tremor of her voice struck a nerve, and Mark felt it deep in his chest. It wasn't just about them anymore. It was about everyone in the community. They were all intertwined in this fight, risking everything for hope. Mark glanced back towards the site, caught between frustration and fear as screams still rang out. He couldn't shake the feeling of urgency. "We need to go back," he said decisively. "If we can get them to listen, we might still have a chance, but what would that look like in the chaos? And, more importantly, would they find the courage to face the storm looming ahead?" As Mark turned back to face the turmoil, determination coursed through him. They weren't finished yet. And just then, amid the uncertainty, I caught something. The foreman was standing alone, staring at the wreckage, looking deeply torn. Could he be the key to their fight? Mark's heart raced as he took a step forward again. Would they turn back to chaos? Or could this be the moment where everything shifted? Mark's feet felt like they were stuck in cement as he weighed his options. The dust still swirled around the wreckage, mingling with cries of panic that filled the air. He blinked hard, trying to focus on the foreman's silhouette amidst the chaos. Was the man's conflicted expression a sign of hope, or merely confusion? "Mark." Emma's voice cut through his thoughts, sharp with urgency. "What are you doing? We can't just stand here." He hesitated, torn between the safety of retreat and the responsibility of standing up for something greater. "If we don't try to reason with him now, everything we've built here could be lost, and all those people. They need someone to fight for them." Emma shook her head. "But what if it gets worse? We need to get other people to help, not expose ourselves to more danger." "Or," Mark replied, his voice steady despite the fear churning inside him, "we can let this moment slip away. I want to accept that. I refuse to let fear decide my fate." With a surge of resolve, he began to move forward. Each step felt heavy yet exhilarating, as if he were crossing an invisible threshold from safety into the heart of battle. Emma followed him reluctantly, her eyes darting toward the crowd, filled with whispers and chaos. "Mark, be careful," she warned, grabbing his arm. He turned to face her, sensing her worry. "I need you to trust me. Trust that this matters." As they approached the foreman, the man still seemed frozen, staring at the mess of machinery as if waiting for it to speak. "Hey," Mark called out, startling the foreman from his trance. "What are you going to do? Just stand there while our lives fall apart?" With a jolt, the foreman finally looked up, shock evident on his face as he registered Mark's presence. The weight of the moment pressed heavily on both men, and the air between them crackled with unspoken tension. The foreman stammered, rubbing the back of his neck. "I didn't mean for it to turn out like this, then help us fix it," Mark implored. "You have people behind you who don't want to see their homes turned into a parking lot. We can come together and find a solution. You're not just an order follower, you're part of this community, too." A flicker of something, a hesitation, maybe guilt, passed over the foreman's face. "It's not that simple. My crew is complying with corporate pressure, and I don't know if I can break those chains." "Then let me help," Mark said, stepping closer, sincerity pouring from every word. "We can stand together." Behind him, the distant murmurs of the crowd were rising again, people beginning to rally, motivated by Mark's courage. The foreman looked past Mark for a split second, seeing the community he was part of, the real faces they were about to hurt. "Get everyone together," the foreman finally said, resolve hardening in his voice. "I'll go against the orders, but we have to act now, before it's too late." As he turned to call back to his crew, Mark felt a rush of triumph. It wasn't finished, but they were taking a step forward. The echoes of panic faded, replaced by the whispers of hope among the crowd began to turn into a chorus. He turned to Emma, a broad smile breaking on his face. "We can do this," but just as confidence filled the air, a fresh wave of panic hit as a voice rose, shouting, "Hey, what is happening? They're moving again." Mark's heart sank. The machinery behind them began to rumble ominously, a new threat looming. Would they hold on to the sliver of progress they had gained, or was chaos again about to spill over? Mark's stomach tightened. The ground vibrated beneath him, sending tremors of dread through his limbs. He turned just in time to see the huge machines lurch forward, their motions jerky and uncertain like a predator poised to strike. He exchanged a quick look with Emma, the panic mirrored in her eyes, and it struck him how fragile their victory was. "Someone else making them move," Emma shouted, her voice strained. "We need to get everyone to safety." Mark felt the weight of her words. "No, we can't abandon this. Not now, not after we've come so far." Just as he spoke, Another enormous metal arm swung dangerously close, crushing a nearby fence. People shrieked and scattered, the chaos morphing into a race against time. Mark. Emma's voice quavered with fear. We can't stop them. They'll hurt someone. But Mark's mind was racing, thoughts colliding like the very machinery they faced. We need to get control back if the foreman is willing to help. Maybe we can halt this, he said, voice steadying. If he can talk to his crew, convince them to face the machines together, we might have a chance. With a deep breath, he turned and shouted to the foreman, who was still trying to regain his composure after making the bold declaration. We need to command these machines, we can't let them rampage. As if on cue, the foreman rallied his crew, shouting orders to the men and women scrambling about. Don't just stand there. Get back to your posts. We need to shut this down. Stray glances darted toward Mark, as if seeking instruction, adding to the urgency in the air. Mark stepped in, voice projecting through the turmoil. Focus. We all have a choice to make. Together, we can stop this before it escalates. Remember what we're fighting for. Our homes, our families. Surprisingly, some of the workers responded to his call. They hesitated, understanding the stakes. But others remained captive to fear, their faces pale, eyes wide as the machines continued to menace, a tempest of steel and noise. Mark felt a surge of something deep within him, an urge to fight. He glanced at Emma, who still stood at his side, fear mingling with admiration. I can't do this without you, he said, his tone softer, reaching for her strength. She nodded, taking a deep breath. Okay, let us do it. Just as they sprang back to action, however, a thundering crash echoed through the air. One of the large contraptions tipped dangerously close to where people were gathering. The fear quickly shifted to a full-blown panic. Mark, Emma shouted, clutching his arm tightly. Everyone, grab hold of something. Mark yelled, adrenaline igniting determination in his voice. We need to stabilize this before it gets worse. In front of him, he saw the crowd of workers start to mobilize, the fear giving way to urgency. He could feel the energy shifting, the reluctant acknowledgement that they were all in this together, bound by a shared fate. But just then, another shout pierced the air, slicing through the din. No, don't do it. Step back. Mark turned to see the source, an older man from the crew, eyes wild, fear radiating off him. We'll kill ourselves if we try to block them. You don't know what you're doing. The argument hung heavy with tension, the stakes mounting as uncertainty loomed over Mark and the crowd. Would they falter at the brink of their only chance for a solution, or would they find a way to unite against the encroaching chaos? And in that pivotal moment, Mark's heart raced. Would he find the power to lead them to victory, or was the moment slipping away the way the dust was consumed by the blowing wind? The crowd wavered, caught in the grip of fear and uncertainty. Mark could feel the weight of their gazes pressing down on him, moments stretching like elastic bands about to snap. Heart pounding, he barked out another order. Listen, we need to work together. Trust me. Emma squeezed his arm again, steadying him. Mark, they're scared. This isn't just about machines. It's about their lives. He nodded, knowing she was right. But they were their only hope. Then let us give them something to believe in. Our families need us. With a hopeful spark ignited, Mark turned back to the group. I know it feels like we're all in a cage, but we're not. We have the chance to take back control. Believe in each other. Together we can make these machines stop. People hesitated, some fists tightening, eyes sharpening. Mark's heart raced as he scanned the faces of the workers. He spotted the foreman, determination replaced by a flicker of understanding. With a nod of resolve, the man stepped forward. All right, the foreman shouted, the noise of the machines roaring behind him. If you want to stop this, we need to work fast and smart. Move as one. A ripple of energy surged through the crowd. The workers shifted closer, their fear morphing into a fierce solidarity. Mark felt the energy crackle, transforming apprehension into resolve. They were ready to fight. Emma, we'll need to split into teams. If we can surround the machines and control the controls, we might be able to shut them down, he said urgently. Emma glanced toward the contraptions that lurked ominously. Mark, you really think they'll listen to us? Together, they assessed the chaos unfolding. A few of the machines thrashed wildly, but others had settled, their tinny grumblings betraying the strain of their unsteady movements. We're the only ones that can save this, Mark replied, steel creeping back into his voice. Let us guide them. If we can reach that control panel at the center, there's a chance we can reset the whole system. Determination kicked in as Mark gestured toward the closest machine, its massive gears whirring menacingly. Okay, people. Form teams. We need to create a distraction, keep them occupied while we get into position. Emma paired up with a couple of workers, creating her own plans while Mark enlisted a few others to follow him. We'll take the right flank. Emma, you and your team hit it from the left. Just as they were about to sprint into action, a rumble echoed ominously through the ground again. Caught off guard, their plans momentarily faltered. Look out! A voice cried from the crowd, voices rising and falling in panic. A machine's arm lurked overhead, swinging down dangerously. Move! Mark roared, instinct driving him forward. He dove to the side, grabbing Emma just in time. They landed in a roll, the metal contraption crashing down where they had just stood, sending up a cloud of dust. The shock jolted clarity through Mark's mind. As dust settled, he saw the look of fear on Emma's face switch to one of fierce determination. The workers' resolve heightened. They wouldn't let fear consume them now. They had to step forward. They could beat this. Push through, Mark shouted, rising again, adrenaline pumping through him. We can do this. As they moved in unison, the once chaotic energy morphed into something solid, something they could channel. Mark felt an overwhelming sense of purpose wash over him. In the heartbeat of that moment, his eyes locked with Emma's, a silent agreement passing between them. They would do whatever it took. But just when victory felt tangible, a voice cut through the air, a voice Mark recognized, but never expected to hear right now. Stop! You don't know what you're doing. The ground trembled, and Mark's heart skipped. The foreman turned as the words hung heavy in the air. When Mark turned to see who had shouted, nothing could prepare him for what lay ahead. It was someone from the other side, someone he thought was an ally, and their next move could change everything. The dust still hung in the air as Mark's heart raced, recognizing the familiar voice. It was Simon, the corporate representative who had been overseeing the development project. With a slick confidence, he stepped into view, hands in his pockets, surveying the crowd as if they were simply a nuisance blocking his path. What are you all doing? Simon questioned, a sharp edge to his tone. You can't halt progress. You're only making this worse for yourselves. His words dripped with disdain. Mark felt anger surge through him, fueled by Simon's indifference to the lives that were at stake. You think progress is bulldozing over families? You think buildings are worth more than people? His voice grew louder, resonating with the frustration of everyone standing with him. The crowd murmured in agreement, their conviction palpable. Simon opened his mouth to respond, but Emma, emboldened by her father's spirit, stepped forward. No, we matter, Simon. Our homes matter. You can't objectify us and our lives just to put up another shopping center. The vulnerability in her voice struck a chord among the community. Even Simon looked caught off guard, hesitating as the weight of Emma's words settled in the air. For a moment, silence reigned, and Mark took the opportunity to seize Simon's hesitation. Think about it, Simon. When you lay another brick down, it's not just business. It's about lives disrupted and dreams crushed. Just look at the community here. Mark gestured towards the families surrounding him, their expressions filled with hope, fear, and resilience. These are real people with stories, not just numbers on a spreadsheet. As Mark spoke, he felt a shift in the air. There was a connection blooming, like the cherry blossoms outside. Simon's steely demeanor wavered, flickers of uncertainty passing across his face. Are you willing to stand with us? Mark implored. You could be part of a solution that restores, not just destroys. We're more than a project. We're a community. A few workers around them nodded, emboldened by their growing sense of confidence. A chorus of agreement rippled through the crowd, voices blending together, the heartbeats of the community echoing as one. Simon seemed to digest the gathering voices, weighing his next move. I'll take your concerns back. I can't promise results, but I'll ask. But you need to stay peaceful. This cannot turn into a riot. Do you understand? Mark felt the tension shift. This was their opening. We'll stay peaceful, but you have to understand something: we're not backing down. We're standing for our homes, for each other. The foreman, emboldened by Mark's words, added, we have a choice to make today. We can either work as allies or let this project tear us apart. Mark locked eyes with Emma, and her wide smile radiated warmth against the chaos. Hope surged in him, an untapped reservoir. They were making progress, perhaps more than he had ever dreamed. As the murmurs settled into a comforting hum, he turned back to Simon. We can't let you bulldoze our lives. Together, we can create space that fosters community, creativity, and innovation without wiping out our homes. Be the bridge between us. The crowd rallied, chanting, "Together! Together!" Mark's heart soared. For once, he felt a true connection not just with Emma, but with neighbors, friends, and even the very workers who had once been poised to erase everything meaningful in their lives. Yes, Simon finally nodded, a reluctant acknowledgement shimmering in his eyes. I'll take your proposal for a community partnership back to the board, but it won't be easy. Mark stepped closer, igniting the hope coursing through him. Nothing worth saving ever is. The machines stilled, their gnarled arms slowly retracting in cacophonous defeat. The tension that once seeped into the air dissipated into something softer, brighter. In that pivotal moment, Mark felt the weight of a shared truth. Success wasn't measured in dollars or projects completed, but in the bonds forged through struggle and hope that they gathered around, each person holding their homemade signs. Hi, a message of unity towered above. Families, friends, and even those who had once stood divided now shared purpose, their shared humanity shining like a beacon. And as a warm breeze danced through the cherry blossoms, Mark knew they had transformed something small into something monumental. It wasn't just a fight to keep their homes. It was a declaration of love. For as long as life continued to flow, he vowed to embrace this connection. And when Emma nestled against him, her small hand in his, he understood that their journey toward true success had only just begun. Perhaps there was still hope, not just for them, but for the world beyond, a world built on unity, resilience, and love. That in this community, with all its flaws and strengths, they would thrive together. Now it was time to spread this message, this journey of love and connection and hope. And if you're feeling inspired by this transformation, it's time to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you never miss another exclusive story. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this inspiring ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to let your voice be heard.